So welcome to the third English webinar, part of the GenB project. So this is the last one. It's a bit bittersweet, but I think I'm so excited about all the content that the GenB partners have been able to create for this webinar. It's really cool. And I think we're all going to learn a lot. So be patient, be engaged. If you have questions, don't hesitate. You can write in the chat or you can raise your hand. And it's all about communication skills. So I think we have very experienced people who are going to tell us more about it. So I'm not even going to try and explain what communication skills are. But what I'd like us to do is to start off, start with a very short Menti. I will share my screen again. Do you see it now?
Yes, okay. We can see it.
So for this quiz, we're not testing you as you. I want you to think about like your group of friends or like an average person in your age and answer the questions not according to you, but according to what most people in your age group or in your friends group do.
Sorry, Juliet, to interrupt you. We see the presentation but in presenter mode, so I think you have to switch
it's the wrong screen.
The views.
Thank you. I keep doing that. And now?
Perfect.
Okay. So I want you to think about your friends and answer. It's only 5 questions. It's about habits. So it's very easy. And it's just a little bit of a warm-up. If you all go get your phones and go to Menti, you can scan the code, or you can go to menti.com and use the code 76686045.
I think in Menti, I'm also trying. Maybe you have to move because it seems that we are still in, I don't know the other, but I cannot
I
vote.
don't know if I have
cannot
to present. Write. Okay. And what about now? So I'll move it to the next.
Okay, now it works. Yep.
So how often does your typical friend use a reusable water bottle? Okay, we have more with almost always, but the only sometimes is growing. Okay, since we have 10 people in the Menti at the moment and only 10 answers, now 11. So we can say that most of our friends, that's a really good sign that most people think about using a reusable water bottle always. And for some, it's just sometimes. So the next question, what kind of soap? I don't know if you know such intimate things about your friends, but what kind of soap does your typical friend use? Do they use a bar soap? Do they use a very nice shower gel in a very nice plastic bottle? Okay. Wow. Okay, so we have all 8 answers. They use a shower gels in plastic bottles. Okay, that's not very promising, I have to say, because we're trying to, I think the most sustainable ways to use like solid soap, but I get the why the shower gel in the bottle is very appealing. I mean, it always smells better. So maybe we'll find some sustainable, more interesting options. So how much meat does your typical friend eat? I personally eat a lot of meats, and I'm not very proud. Actually, it's a long story, but I eat meat. I should eat less. Okay, so many people are like me. They eat meat whenever they want. We should want to eat meat less if we want to do something good for the environment. But I'm happy to see that some of them have reduced their meat intake to help the environment. That's great. So the second last question is, what does your typical friend consider when buying new shoes or clothes? Is it just about how it looks, about how much it costs, or is the sustainability aspect very important? Okay. So it seems that most people still look at the price and look at the style, which is legit. But for the environment, I think it's better if we look really into sustainable clothing using eco materials. I think if you remember from
everybody make sure that you take your microphone closed, please. I see that there are a couple open. Please double check.
Thanks, Susanna. So I don't know if you remember from the first webinar, Katarina and I described to you some of the controversial aspects of the bioeconomy, or and it was about greenwashing. I hope you remember what greenwashing is. So there's sadly a lot of brands which sell themselves as being sustainable, but are not really. So I'm guessing that's also not very helpful to help the switch. And the last question is, is your typical friend aware that storing digital files like photos, emails? Katarina, can you see whose mic is not switched off and switch it off for me?
I think Matteo. Yes,
I'm sorry, I can see now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, this is not very surprising because I don't think many people know that. You just think, okay, I have a phone, it has this much memory, and it's just the memory that we're using. But this is all powered by servers somewhere, which need a lot of energy and also cause a lot of CO2 emissions. So now that we've seen that maybe not our typical friends or ourselves are not doing the most sustainable habits, if you do some of the things, so if you carry a water bottle, if you know about reducing meat to help the environment, how do you communicate to them the best so that they can follow in the same thread? So my next question, and this is the last Mentimeter question, is through which channels do you think you can inform your friends about more sustainable habits? So as GenB ambassadors, I'm sure we've talked a lot about what the bioeconomy is, but we've also discussed habits. So I'm sure you have very good habits yourselves, and I'm sure you'd want to share them. That's why you're GenB ambassadors. And if you're not an ambassador yet, you should be. You can join us still. So I'm seeing through social media, through TikTok, Instagram, through AI. That interests me. How does the AI? Does anyone who wrote AI want to kind of explain? No? Okay. So we have blogging, speech, Instagram, through the phone, school. Okay. So we can see that the social media and the speech are really big because many of you have said those things. And the good thing is today we're going to learn a lot about speech, also a lot about writing and about video making. So that connects to social media and TikTok and Instagram. So if you've not yet been sharing with your friends how to have more sustainable habits, you'll learn exactly how to do it in this workshop. And before I say too much, I want to really focus on the content today. And we have 5 amazing modules prepared for you. So the first one, Valeria and Sarah will take us through an introduction to communication. So what's communication anyway? And then Valentina and Susanna are going to talk to us about public speaking. They'll show us a really amazing example where we can learn from. Then Santi will tell us about writing articles for a journal, but also writing in general. And then Pietro will come in and tell us about video making for bioeconomy and environmental awareness. So not just the technical part, but also how you form the whole story. And then at the end, because this whole ties in with bioeconomy, Marissa, who we met at the first webinar, is going to explain to us how to describe, because we know bioeconomy is not so easy to explain to everyone. So she's going to tell us how we can explain some of the bioeconomy aspects in much easier terms. So on this note, I would like to invite Valeria and Sarah from FEA. They're from Italy. They are one of our partners. Actually, they are the project coordinator, and they're going to introduce us to communication. Valeria.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi. So I have to request the control, right,
Yes.
for the presentation. Okay.
You got it.
Sent it. Okay, thank you. So hello everyone. Nice to meet you virtually. My name is Valeria, and I'm communication manager for APRE. That is the project coordinator of GenB. Specifically, I don't work on this project, but I follow the scientific communication of other projects in the organization, and I work with Sarah, that is here with me. And she's the digital art director of our organization. And today, because of time, I will present, but we developed the presentation together. So our first module, okay, okay, is an introduction to communication. And we can start by asking ourselves, why is communication important? So it seems like a, let's say, very simple and kind of rhetoric question, but communication is, we do it every day. So we will just break down a bit its characteristics, so it becomes more understandable for you when you use it to deliver messages connected to bioeconomy. So communicating is the ability to convey our thoughts, our feelings, and our ideas. And we convey these thoughts, feelings, and ideas through a message that we develop. And of course, we need an audience. And we use tools that are or means that are verbal or non-verbal. So we will see this in a bit. Communication is not only, let's say, verbal or what the words we use, but is of course the language, but also the tone of our voice, our body language, the gestures that we do, and the facial expressions that we do. And good communication plays an essential role because it allows us to have an active role in our personal and professional lives. It allows us to express ourselves clearly, understand other people better, and build strong relationships. So, and this is effective communication on all of its forms that helps us reduce misunderstandings, develop strong relationships, and establish ourselves as an active participant in all of the contexts that we live every day. So learning to communicate effectively requires time and practice, because of course everyone can communicate, but to become an assertive and effective communicator, it takes time to train. Now we can see some type of communication that are the most common ones that we use every day. The first one is verbal communication. That is what I'm doing now, using spoken words, using sounds to convey my message to the people who are listening to me over the phone, in person, or on a video call. Most of our information every day we convey through verbal communication. So it's very important to learn how we speak and the impact of our verbal communication. The second type is non-verbal communication. That is, of course, a broad category that is everything that we express without making a sound. Our hand gestures, our body language, facial expression, eye contact, if we touch people when we speak to them, our heart rate. So if we feel nervous, or other people can perceive us as nervous, and also the social space. So how far we stand from our speaker if we are on a in-person communication. The nonverbal communication can be both conscious or unconscious. So we have control. Sorry, that no, okay. well, okay, it's both conscious or unconscious. Conscious meaning that we can control it, and usually it's our hand gesture, or if we touch other people, or unconscious if it's our facial expression, that they happen so fast that our brain cannot filter them. And these are both good things to be aware of when we communicate. Okay. Okay. And then thirdly, we have written communication that are all the messages that we convey using written words and symbols, for example, emojis. And these are, for example, text messages, emails, visual presentations, articles, and so on. And this type of communication will be seen later, as we have a module on how to write articles. So you will go much more in depth in that. And finally, this is something that many people do not take into consideration, but listening is a type of communication, because we have to listen to the person who is speaking to us to form a good and relevant answer or a response. And listening is not only passive, so we do not only have to try to form our answer, but we also have to understand what the other person is doing and trying not to form a judgment before they are done talking, and all of these type of actions that are innate to us. So I would say that listening is the hardest skill in communication to develop, because in our society that requires very fast communication, our brain tries to find only the relevant things that we want to respond to and ignores certain messages. So listening becomes a bit harder. And now we can very briefly go through how we can effectively develop and share a message. And we can go through the 5 Ws. That, of course, this method is very famous and is taught at different levels. So I'm sure most of you will be already aware of this method. And it comprises of basically asking yourself these 5 questions to create an effective communication, let's say, method. So firstly, we ask ourselves what? So think about the message that you want to send and adapt it to your context. So you can convey the same message different ways and also on the same topic. So thinking about it and trying to tailor it to your audience and to the context you are in, it helps you form it in a way that it's more precise and it reaches better your audience. Who you are talking to, so you can picture your target audience and it should be very defined, and your target audience is simply the receivers of your message. Of course, you can say that you want to send your message to everyone, but in this way people will always be excluded, because we talk with different people in a different way. And if you think about it, we do it every day, because you talk with your professor in a certain way, with your friend in another. So if you have in mind your target audience, this helps you create a relevant message. How is how you want to convey it. So here I'm saying adapt the message using the right tone of voice and the visual elements. So once you have in mind what you want to say and who you want to say it to, then you can find some elements that are more relevant for them. So if I want to talk with my peers, I can use an informal language. If I want to talk with a professor, a business owner, industry representative, then I'm going to need to use a more formal tone of voice. And then when. So it's also important to, for example, since from the Menti before, many of you said that you want to use social media to spread your message. Then you also have to understand that you have to plan when you share your message, and have, for example, an editorial calendar, or at least plan your posts. If there are some events that you want to let's say, use in a way that can highlight your message, then you also have to take into consideration when you are going to share it. And finally, where you are going to share it. And this also connects, for example, to social media. Because if you want to share a very formal message, then you are going to use, for example, LinkedIn. If you want to share your message that is picture-based, then you're going to use Instagram, because these platforms were built for different purposes. Okay, so now we're going to briefly mention storytelling, that it's a useful tool to express and explore messages that in this case are connected to bioeconomy, because we are here to try to join these two topics, communication and bioeconomy. And storytelling, of course, is the art of telling a story, and it can be done in many different ways. What we are suggesting here is that there are some common themes that they can be used as an initial structure to build your message around. So these topics can help you make your narrative more accessible to your target audience. And by using a specific common theme, you can better reach a specific target group, because if you choose them correctly, they match and they resonate for each other. And here we put a few examples. Now we can see one in detail, or more in details, because we have a bit of time constraints. But in general, a few examples of common themes of storytelling are coming of age stories, good versus evil, freedom and oppression, nature and the environment, war and conflict, family and legacy, hope and resilience. Now, what this means is that if, for example, I want to write a children's book and about bioeconomy, so what can I do to help myself and tailor my message? That, for example, I'm doing very basic examples, that bioeconomy is good, but I want to say it to children. So I need to use a language that is very accessible. So I can, for example, use the common theme of good versus evil, where there is a character that is good and that wants to use bioeconomy practices, and when there is another character that is the nemesis, for example, that is evil and doesn't want to use bioeconomy or wants to use fossil fuels. And then you can build your narrative around it. And this is just a tool for you to use. Of course, as I said, this is a very basic example, but it is to make you understand how this type of common themes can help you carry out your story and develop your message in an effective way. And here, I think you will have the slides, but there are, I put a few resources on how to use common themes that are available. But in general, if you look online, you can find many resources, maybe even more specific to your case than the ones that I put here. So the most important thing to remember is to choose a theme that suits your audience. So I know that it seems like I'm repeating always the same message, but it is fundamental to know your audience and then adapt your message to it, because this is the way that you can better your chances for your message to arrive and engage the people you want to engage. And finally, now we are going to go through some tips, so some do's and don'ts on how, let's say, to communicate effectively. The first one is to go straight to the point. So use short phrases that can make the topic understandable and accessible. Give clear examples to help get your point across. So examples are always very useful because they contextualize what you're saying. And when it's possible, you can offer a short summary or a recap of your message, so that you are sure that you are highlighting the part that you really want to come across. Of course, this last point is not always possible because it's more of a, let's say, formal type of writing. In more creative media, it can be a bit more difficult to apply, but if possible, it's a good thing to keep in mind. Secondly, what we want to suggest is to use an inclusive and accessible language. So inclusivity is something that should always be considered, not only when you are talking about, for example, people with disability or from a minority. So even if you are talking about a story that is not about this, a good practice is to ask yourself, am I really, for example, using images that are accessible, or colors that are accessible with people that have visual impairments? This is a good way to make sure that that you are applying this inclusivity, let's say, practices. And also at the same time, if you are in your story or in your video or whatever you are creating, there are people that are minorities or that are members of a community that has disabilities, it's always good to involve them from the start. So make them part of your creative process so that you know that their representation is correct and is what they want in terms of representation. And so also another tip is to look online mainly for tools that facilitate nonverbal communication and that can help you lower these exclusion barriers that are often keeping out people from certain messages. So in general, is a good thing if you can use videos, pictures, or certain fonts or colors, because this way it's more inclusive with people that have impairments or certain let's say barriers. And finally, you can you should remember to always apply inclusivity in language. And the example that I always make here, and that is very simple, is that, for example, in English, in general now we try not to use he or she, but we use they to be more representative and inclusive. And of course, I know that are other gendered languages. For example, Italian is a gendered languages, but try to look for tips on how to make it less gendered or make it more inclusive. And here I am also sharing a series of resources that can help you apply inclusive communication practices. And they are all from associations that work with people with disabilities or minorities, so they are inclusive. And okay, so moving on, we have the validation of our process. And what this means is that you should seek or ask for feedback. You can use analytic tools, for example, for social media. That, of course, is not direct feedback from your target audience, because analytics tools collect data on your posts or on what you share. But there is a way to understand, for example, which posts are more successful. And this is also a way for you to understand which topic, for example, to cover more or which topic to cover less. And it's a good idea to involve your target audience. So give them the possibility to share an opinion and involve them, as I was saying before, for inclusivity in the crafting of the message. So try to be adaptable in what you're trying to share, and also understand that critics or feedback are also a signal that maybe what you want to say is not coming across the way you want to say it. So it should be adapted better to your audience. And finally, I know it's hard, but don't take feedback personally. In general, feedback helps us grow, but I know that maybe in creative processes, it can be a bit hard sometimes to accept it. But if it's a constructive feedback or a constructive criticism, then it really helps us in developing more skills to adapt to our audience. And finally, the last tip is also connected to feedback. So make yourself available for clarification. And so always give your audience a way to reach you. we put here safely, because of course we don't want to to give our personal data to people that we don't know. But it is essential to build a community, not only to receive feedback, but also ask for example, for how you can improve certain things, or which topic you want to be covered. It is important to establish a two-way communication, because one-way communication puts a huge barrier. It's just you are telling something and you are not listening back. And if you remember at the beginning, we said that listening is very important. So you should apply it also when you are sharing, for example, your message on social media. And so it's very important to build this community, because building communities is the way to engage people. If we are only publishing, if we are only giving out news from one way, then this will never allow us to build a real community that also helps us gather, for example, needs or challenges that they are experiencing, and we cannot grow in this way in how we share our message. So thank you for listening. I don't know if the questions will be later or now, or if we have time for questions, but
I think we have a little bit time for questions. Thank you, Valeria, for the presentation. It was really interesting. I learned as well quite a bit. And I think for me, it was really interesting, the part of listening, because when you're like preparing a speech or something, you're always just thinking about what am I going to say? And or if you're talking to someone, you're just thinking, okay, I want to say this, but the listening part is also very important to also, as you said at the end, see whether your message reaches the target group like you intended to. So,
yes, it's a way that basically our brains work, because our brains want to work as less as possible. So when we have to listen to someone, we are just looking for words that we know we need to react to. So it's really a training of saying, okay, I'm not thinking about what I want to respond. I just want to listen and understand, because the two things are connected, basically. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has a question, or if anyone wants to share something that was like, oh, I didn't know that, and I'm glad I heard it. Don't be shy. It's a safe space.
Yeah. Maybe they knew already everything. So.
No, I think you're just very clear. So
okay.
I think I'm sure everyone can take something out of the presentation. So thank you so much. If you have questions, as Valeria said, thank you. And she also put her contacts here, yes. So you can also contact her. That was also one of the tips that
yes.
make sure that your audience
I will reply.
can get in touch with you.
Yes.
And also you can contact everyone in the consortium. I think you know us by now. We're happy to get back to you and to support you in any way. So I just need 1 second to do something technically, which I'm not able to do when someone else is controlling.
Oh, I will give back the control.
Yes,
okay.
please. Okay, just 1 second.
I just took the opportunity to say that if you want to participate in the next videos that we are producing, for instance, we are doing something about controversial issues or some other topics, please contact or your national contact or directly communication at fbaweb.it. It is written in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. So now we've had kind of an introduction to communication. We've had a lot about nonverbal, about verbal communication. Now, Suzanne and Valentina are going to tell us about a little bit about public speaking. You've met both, so you just met Susanna. Valentina, you've met her in the second webinar, and you'll meet her in a minute. They're both from Italy and work in FVA, an organization which is part of the project. To start off, I would like you to please go back to the Menti, to the same Menti, and we're going to watch a video now, a very short one. And while the video is running, think about this question. So the person who will be in the video is called Team Gordon, and your task is to kind of write in the Mentimeter what you think works in his speech. So I'm going to start the Menti now. It should work. And right now I will play the video.
Lift yourself out of this fancy auditorium and plunge into the Pacific Ocean. You are a baby coral reef fish. Life started when you hatched out of an egg on a coral reef, and as you took your first gulps of water, you were carried out on the ocean currents into the deep blue sea. You grew up here for a few weeks, and now you're big and strong, and at the size of a mighty tic-tac, you're ready to come back to a coral reef and take on the world. But how are you going to get there? Because this isn't Finding Nemo. The friendly sea turtles aren't going to point you in the right direction. This is the real world. And you are a very small fish in a very big ocean. You can't see a reef. They're too far away. You can't smell a reef. The current's going in the wrong direction. But you can hear a reef. They're really noisy places. Turtles crunch, shrimp snap their claws, fish whoop and grunt and chatter and buzz. Julie Andrews should have had a snorkel, because the reefs are alive with the sound of music. Sound travels far underwater, and so you can hear your way home. Or can you? I'm a marine biologist. I study the sound of Australia's Great Barrier Reef using underwater microphones, and my most recent recordings reduced me to tears. In the last 5 years, climate change has decimated my reefs. Cyclones have smashed them to pieces. Marine heat waves have cooked the corals. The animals of that underwater orchestra are dead, and their once joyful chorus is a quarter of its previous volume. The symphony of the sea is being silenced. You can't hear your way home anymore. You're lost in the blue. Now that's depressing, but I don't study coral reefs so I can tell you depressing stories. I study them because I care, and I study them because the more we understand, the better we can protect them. For instance, we now know that these degraded reefs are too quiet, right? So can we use loudspeakers to call the fish back in? To test that idea, I did an experiment where I built lots of artificial coral reefs all around a bay, and on some of them, I used a loudspeaker to play the sound of a normal degraded reef. But on other ones, I played the sound of a healthy reef, and when I played that healthy sound, I got 40% more fish coming back, with a 25% increase in diversity. That could make a difference. Those fish, through their grazing, can clear away algae, they can allow new corals to grow, that might speed up recovery processes, and they might restore the rhythm of the reef. So yes, coral reefs are in crisis. Yes, it's heartbreaking and you can hear it happening. But with new research comes new understanding and the potential for new solutions. So as we look to the future, let's learn to listen. Thank you.
Okay, so I may take over here, so thank you, Juliet. We have some responses, some elements that were shared. So Team Gordon talks directly to the audience, of course, with enthusiasm, use emotions, the rhythm of the speech, bunch of references, very passionate, and is painting a picture, a story, as also shared by Valeria before. Passion and enthusiasm are very linked, and we will see all these elements later on in the presentation that we are going to do together with Susanna. Dynamic voice and gesture. He started with metaphor, volume, poses. So all these elements, you will see that they will come in the next presentation. So thanks for the moment that you shared some of these elements, and it's nice that even you, without doing this course, really understands what can work and what makes a speech very good and very interesting for people who are listening. So this is a very good example. In the meantime, I request control for going through the presentation. And let's see if it works. Yes. This is the video. Okay. So now let's talk, as anticipated by Juliet, of the public speaking, which is, we entitled this presentation The Art of Public Speaking, because it is a real ability and a real art doing very good speeches. In fact, doing public speaking is an equilibrium of different dimensions. So on one hand, there are the topic and the contents, the what, already presented somehow by Valeria before, but there are many other dimensions that are very important when doing public speaking. So telling a story and the flow of the story. I'm sure you will remember Tim Gordon's speech tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, the next month, but also in 1 year, because the flow of the story was so interesting that makes also us remembering what he's telling. Of course, are important also the communication skills of the speakers. You told also these in the Mentimeter. So using a rhythm, being dynamic, both with the voice and the gestures, using emotions, so are all tips that we will see better in this presentation. And finally, also the engagement and the relation with the audience you are speaking to. And so also, Tim Gordon, you see the great relations with the audience through questions, through the using of you are, so directly interacting with them. First of all, we have also to remind that our public, our audience, has an attention span of more or less a 2-year-old child. So we really have to fight, let's say, for the attention of our audience, of our public. And unfortunately, despite they have this very low attention span, they have a memory of a 90-year-old person. So they are very young for capture the attention, but very old to keep what you are telling in their memory. So we really have to be effective if we want, first, to be listened to, and second, to be remembered. But we are here to understand how we can make this really effectively. So first of all, let's focus on the what, on this dimension that Valeria also mentioned before. So the topic, the contents. How can you choose a what, an effective what? First of all, you have to choose a very actual topic or relevant for your audience or original or useful. So for example, an actual topic is something related to very actual stories, actual news. So you can start from actual news to talking about something, or talking of something relevant for your public. Of course, something that is relevant, for example, for children, maybe not as much as relevant for adults or for high school students. So depending on your audience, you have to choose a relevant and interesting theme and topic for them. Once we have chosen this topic, it's important also to focus on the key messages. So the extreme synthesis of what you want to communicate to them. And it's important to have in a very short speech, like the one, for example, of Tim Gordon, a maximum of 3 core messages. And all your speech should underpin these 3 core messages. So everything should recap these main 3 core messages. Of course, it's important also to choose the words to convey this topic, this content, and these messages. Keeping your audience in mind, if you are talking to children, as also Valeria said, we are using a language. If you are talking to high school students, maybe we can use even a bit more complex language. If you are talking to adults also, but of course you have to tailor based on your target audience. And when you're speaking with large public in general, being them children or high school students or adults, please also keep in mind and be careful with technical terms. And often people ask how much I have to simplify a topic to make it understandable from other people, from large public, from children. So the idea is that you should simplify your message, but without distorting or misinterpreting it. So try to simplify as much as possible, but if you understand that you are distorting the message or misinterpreting it, stop yourself and go a step behind. Once covered the what, it's important also to use storytelling to tell this story, to tell this content to your public. Also, this dimension was really touched already by Valeria and deepened by Valeria. So very briefly, what I want you to think about is, again, the importance of stories, because stories are easy to remember. Our brain operates in picture, and a story has the power to paint them. I'm sure that when Tim Gordon said, "You are a baby coral reef fish," you really painted in your mind this baby coral reef fish. Each of us basically has in his mind this fish. One is red, one is yellow, everyone has his own fish, but we have this picture. So stories are easy to remember. Again, I'm sure that the next year you still remember the story that Tim Gordon told you today. So the research of Tim Gordon was not so interesting per se, no? He's saying, okay, I've put these underwater speakers to attract more fishes in the coral reef fish that are coral reefs that are dying, basically, no? Because there is not more sound. So it's not just interesting, the research per se, but it becomes interesting using this nice flow. So the audience is entertained, the story is nice, and so it's easy also to remember, even if the message per se may be complex and maybe not so interesting at that point. Again, there are various types of flow for telling your story with a wave-like pattern. So also in Tim Gordon case, there is a hook and a situation. So you are a baby coral reef fish and you can't find a way home because there is no, so the sound of the ocean and the coral reef has been silenced. This is the threat. So because climate change is threatening this environment. So the challenge is the research. We are trying to do this research, and the promise is that the research can somehow solve this issue. So you see this typical wave-like pattern also in this case. Another important point that you have to keep in mind is that the first impression is key. So people decide if to listen to you in the first, let's say, 7 seconds, even less in social media, but this is another story. And this first impression may be difficult to recover, but no worries. So we are here to understand how to make a first good impression and make the audience really listening to you. So how we can make this? First of all, it's important to have a very powerful hook, a very powerful start of your speech. And the main core here is make the audience understand why your topic may be of interest for them, or why your topic is interesting for them. So try to convince them from the beginning that is of their interest. And you should capture them at the beginning so they are ready to listen to you. So you're saying, how can I do this? It's not easy. Well, there are some tips. You can use some questions. So you can ask a curiosity to your public. So you also nurture the interaction with them. You can tell an anecdote using a very famous quote, using a joke. So emotions are very useful, and we will see this later on. You can use emotional connection or empathy. So in the case of Tim Gordon, for example, he said you use empathy, not saying you are a baby coral reef fish. So people are in the story immediately. And of course, be careful not to play all your best cards in the beginning. So the beginning should be powerful, but you have to keep also some surprises for later. Otherwise, at a certain point, you will lose your audience. And going towards the end of your speech, it's also important to be clear when finishing. In this, Tim Gordon is very good. So he says also, thank you. It's terrible if people don't understand if you finished or not your speech. So they remain like this. And now what's happening? So be clear when finishing your speech. Also, you can use thank you, and that it's really without a doubt. And in the end, since it's the last words your audience will listen to, try to give them a take-home message, because it's the most remembered part of your talk. For example, if you started with a question, answer to that question. Otherwise, you can make a call to action. So what can the audience do in relation to your story? What I found that nice, and it's nice in general, is to close a sort of story loop. So for example, Tim Gordon is talking about the sound of ocean, and he concludes saying, as we look to the future, let's learn to listen. So he's doing first a call to action, second, he's closing very, very nicely the story loop. So there is no doubt that that is the end of his talk. Saying that, I leave the word to Susanna for other important tips.
Okay, so you can go to the next. So you wrote a lot emotions. So emotion is really key in this speech, but in general it's key because it really connects you with the topic. And therefore you can use the stories or narratives, but also your personal emotion and experience. A lot of TEDx speeches are really based on the experience of the people that is on stage, but also elicit the interaction with the public. And then use absolutely cultural touch points. So find something that is lights a light or something, or an idea or an emotion to your public. Tell them something you can recognize. For instance, in that case, everybody was thinking to Finding Nemo, that is this cartoon that everybody has seen, but also empathic touch point. And Tim Gordon is very good on that because it creates continuously some empathic touch point to provide you additional links with the story. But also objects, because the objects can be really helpful for you. First of all, to attract the interest of your audience, but also to really explain the concept and to raise their interest or their curiosity. A good example of a man always using examples and objects, of course, is that guy that everybody know. And there was this speech about him presenting the first Apple Watch, and but in general, there are many cases in TEDx in which objects are in the center of the scene together with the speaker. And then remember to engage all the senses. So we already have seen from the previous presentation the wording, the visual, the movement, but also the smelling. For instance, in Tim Gordon's speech, you could even smell but hear the noise of this coral reef. And then, so more sense you use, better your message will be remembered from your audience. And of course, this will increase also the engagement during the speech. And then the rhythm. So everybody already experienced a speaker that is speaking always in the same way. And after a while, or you sleep or you quit the conversation, because the rhythm creates engagement. And also you can even use different tones. For instance, you can be enthusiastic, or you can be ironic, you can be serious, and you can do everything in different moments of your speech. Always try to not a lot, because sometimes is let's say embedded in our way of speaking. But if you realize that you are doing this, take a pause, wait a second and start again. In the same time, I recommend you not rush, because if you rush, you create an anxiety in your public, but also whisper, or at least use the whispering to create emotion. So if you're using those tools, for instance, rushing or whispering or raising the tone to highlight what you're talking about, that's good. But if you simply do it in a monotonous tone, this will not work at all. So really work as an actor and interpret different parts of your speech. Also emphasis on words. There are some words that you want to use, and then remember that those words you can display them in a higher tone, but then maybe you can give a little pause to highlight the importance of this wording. And of course, what is important also is the next slide, and so the body language. This is less evident when you're speaking in, for instance, like what we are doing now in a Zoom meeting, but it can work in any case. For instance, if you, even in a Zoom meeting, look at the camera, it seems that you're looking at the people you're speaking to. And this is much more evident when you're in a real case. Use your facial expression to accompany, complement your speech. And also always look at yourself from outside and try to have a self-confident confident posture. Look at those two people in the picture. You can really understand what they are thinking and the position they have. They are really closed. They don't want to speak with anybody. So if you start with a very close position, you will not open yourself to the public and they will not follow you. So positive body language that is not close, but not also aggressive. You remember maybe some speeches from the 90s. I know that you can see them in the internet, and you young people laugh a lot about this because there was this very, you are the winner, we are the, so those type of things, of course, doesn't work anymore. You should be spontaneous and also use your hands and body to complement what you're saying. Be confident, but also be authentic. You are imperfect. Everybody is imperfect. Is not important. You don't have to think about the opinion of the people about you. You have to worry about what you are saying, and always keep in mind that you have something very valuable for your audience, and then try to express this with your enthusiasm. If you are the first one that believe in what you are saying, all the other will follow. If you are stressed, find a ritual to relax. Specific, I don't know, a specific T-shirt, or maybe you have something on your pocket. Find your ritual and use it to help yourself. Be ready to unexpected, because this is the Murphy law, you know, everything that can happen. And so try to use it to be maybe ironic, self-ironic, because if you are the first laughing, all the other will follow you. And then remember that the first time nobody is satisfied, but then you can practice, and after a while you will really realize that everything will change. Then practice, practice, practice. You can practice alone, or you can use some friends, or maybe even you can speak to your cat or to your mom. What is important is that you have a counterpart, not only to understand the length of your speech, but also to understand if this speech generates the emotion you wanted to, and then fine-tune it and practice again. But finally, what is really, really important is that you enjoy the experience. So in a certain point, you believe you are ready, and then have fun, because again, if you have fun, all the other will have fun with you. And so I think we are done.
Yes, I think with this we have finished. So of course, if you have any question, we are more than happy to answer. We will leave you the slides. I really invite you to listen again to Tim Gordon. He's a very, very good example. And in general, this is my take-home message also for you. It's also important to listen to people who are doing very good speech. So there are the TEDx, but also like Tim Gordon, there is FameLab, which is a very interesting format to tell about research. So you can also have a look at that. It's a competition where scientists tell about their research like Tim did. So this is my last tip. Listen to people who are doing good speech to learn other tips beyond this presentation.
To steal ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Thank you, Valentina and Susanna. And I am a baby coral reef fish. I think I got the message. I felt like he was talking to me.
We all are, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. That was, for me, that was really interesting. And I also liked that you lived according to the tip. So you saw Valentina saying the first tip and she was using her hands. So was Susanna, and being very empathetic. So even if she's telling us to look at Tim Gordon and FemLab, I think also she's a good example of it. So good job. Anyone with any questions, comments? I have a question. So you preached practice, practice, practice. So if I'm just me and my cat, I don't have a cat, but if it's just me and my four walls, if I video myself and then watch it back, is that still kind of, you're not getting feedback from outside, but still you can critique yourself?
This work, but you have to prevent yourself by judging yourself, because nobody likes himself recorded. And there is a joke in the very beginning of the pandemic, when we started to really deeply use Zoom. There were people kind of hypnotized, looking at themselves, like when they were speaking, not even thinking what they were saying, but kind of hypnotizing themselves around the camera. So always the tip is do practice, but then forget. And since sometimes the videos tend to be kind of a way to judge yourself, if you are super confident, you can do it. Otherwise, it's better maybe to stay in front of a mirror or something that is not so strong like a video, that really emphasize all the bad things and less the good things.
Yeah, so you remember to be kind to yourself, even if you're doing that.
Exactly, because we tend to be the worst enemy of ourselves in most cases. So let's not do this, because you always have something very good to say. So always remember this.
And I give my 2 cents, Juliet, on this, since I also participated in FameLab in Italy and then in the international finals in my past. So in my case, so as you have seen, this was a 3-minute speeches talking about, in that case, my research. And so in that case, in order to be prepared, also to be distracted by people on the stage, etc., this is just an anecdote to break the ice. So I tried basically every day for a month my speech with my mom, with the vacuum cleaner in my room under my feet. So she was trying to distract me, and I had to repeat my speech, trying not to be distracted by my mother that tried to do everything in the meantime. So this is just, I mean, be creative, find your own way to try and practice, basically. But there is not a strict rule, and in the end, enjoy, because you will be ready.
That's true. I see a question or a suggestion by Dimitra. So a very good way is also to engage your audience by posing questions. And this is absolutely true, especially when you are in an environment in which, for instance, a workshop or a place in which you really can interact with the audience. But also remember to look someone. So when you enter in the room, always identify 2 or 3 people that are interested, and you really can spot them in 2 seconds. And use those people when you are low in energy or when you want to have some confirmation. Look at those people, because they will nod or they will smile or whatever. And so you will really, you can really use them to energize yourself. And secondly, and this will happen, someone will pose you the question you cannot answer. this will happen. So if you cannot answer to a question, never say I cannot answer, but use this tip that I've seen from a very good communicator. This, using your finger, this is a very good question. Let me come back to you in 2 seconds, in 2 minutes, something like that. So you have the time to think, or maybe you can rephrase, or maybe you already answer, or maybe you bring him or her in your side, and then it will come really much easier rather than answering straightforward.
And
And
also,
if you don't know the answer,
sorry.
sorry, Juliet, very, very quick. If you don't know the answer, admit that you don't know the answer. Because if you need time to think, it's a good strategy. But if you don't know, it makes no sense saying something. I mean, you can just say, okay, I'm not able to answer to this. Maybe we can exchange contact and give you the answer later on. And last point, important things, if you are finding these people that Susanna was mentioning, use them to energize, but don't just look at them all the time. So remember to look at all audience, and then when you want to be more confident with someone, just look at him. But in general, don't really overlook just 2 or 3 people. This is also important.
Thanks, Valentina. You literally took the words out of my mouth. So if you don't know an answer, we're all humans. We don't know everything. So you can just say, I'm so sorry, I don't know this right now, but I'm happy to research, and you can exchange contacts or something. Good. Ladies, thank you very much. And now, Santi will tell us not the public speaking, but the writing, which has surprisingly very many connections with speaking as well. So Santi?
I think I have control.
Yes, you do have control, and we can hear you.
Excellent. So hi everyone, I'm Santi. We met in the first basic level webinar. So today together we will dive into the wonderful world of writing. It's basically talking, but just put the words down in paper. So many of the things you've already discussed, we will discuss, you've already heard about in the previous fantastic presentations. So now let's see how we can put our pens, let's say, into action on a more technical aspect. So when we think of writing, especially in the context of sustainability and bioeconomy, the first question often is, why should I write about this? And it's a very good question. So to answer this question, let's start by asking another one. Go back to the Menti, you can join using this code, and tell us, can you think of something you've read related to bioeconomy that has inspired you to be a GenB ambassador and advocate for bioeconomy? It's a simple yes or no question. Yes and no. So while you're replying, I will say something made an impact on you that brought you here with us today. And for some of you, maybe it was something you read. So now the yes is winning, so I'm right. So have you ever wondered how your words can change the world? Writing isn't just about expressing ideas, it's about inspiring change. So imagine writing an article that encourages an entire generation to adopt sustainable practices. Or even imagine making an impact on a small group or even one person. It still feels good, doesn't it? So then comes the next question. How will I do that? So by now you understand that knowing your audience is critical. So whether you're addressing the general public, the academic community, or policymakers, knowing your audiences is important, and you have to tailor your message. So like Valeria said, it needs to be tailored. So of course, most of you won't have to be addressing academics or policymakers, but in the context of bioeconomy, some of you might. However, let's focus on our main audience, the general public. So the general public appreciates practical applications, simple language, stories, and examples they can relate to. So for example, if you say switching to bio-based products can reduce your carbon footprint and help protect the environment for future generations, this tells people why to do something, the impact it will have on the future, and on a quite simple language. It's also very important, though, to recognize that even within this audience, the general public, people have varying levels of understanding, especially across different age groups. So when writing for children, simplicity is key. Concepts like the bioeconomy can be difficult for young audiences, so try to break things down in terms they can understand. With teenagers, you can introduce a bit more complex ideas, but it's still important to avoid being too technical. You can focus on how bioeconomy solutions can help solve real-world problems using stories of change or impact. Also, employ pop culture like memes. They resonate very well with this type of audience. And finally, with adults, especially those with little background in bioeconomy, because not all adults are experts in bioeconomy, actually, most aren't. It's about making the content relevant to their everyday lives and giving practical examples on how they can do things and what impact that will have on their community. For example, how bio-based products can improve health, save money, or support local communities. So, choosing the right topic and gathering solid research is the backbone of any effective article. So look for current trends in bioeconomy that are not only relevant, but also impactful. And of course, always ensure there's enough things to say, like there's enough information available for a thorough research. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of our audience now. So go back to Menti and see what we would like to read about. So what bioeconomy topics would you like to read about? It can be anything related to bioeconomy. It can be a simple or elaborate concept. So just think of what bioeconomy topics would you like to read about? Would you like to read about, let's say, waste valorization? Would you like to read about composting? Would you like to read about bioproducts or biomaterials? Very good examples. Innovation, of course. Where to get products, farming. Those are all fantastic because they're very, very practical. Certification and things to do in daily life. See, like from the point of view of the audience, you all understand what you want to see. Now, let's get our pens back, let's say, and think what are the topics we would like to write about, sorry. So, what's a bioeconomy topic you would like to write about? And think of the reason as well. Why would you like to write about that? Is it because you'd like to know more about it and you'd like to do research? Is it because you have knowledge and you'd like to share it? Is it because you want to raise awareness? Controversial issues, fantastic reply. How to impact less thanks to bioeconomy, yes. Impact of using bioproducts, benefits and drawbacks of the bioeconomy, very nice. So for many of us who are thinking of writing an article, these two coincide. It's always a good idea to write about something we're at least a little familiar with, but also something that we're passionate about. The result will be much more impactful that way. So if you think of all those things that you said in the second question and some of the things you said in the first question, you'll see that a lot of them, for example, food, clothes, climate, animal cruelty, and how to do it better, how to have less impact, like we said in the previous conversation. So that is a great way to choose topics, is to do this exercise. What would I like to read about? What would I like to write about? And find a point where those two meet. When it comes to what types of articles you can write, it can be anything from an informative piece, an opinion article on a current topic, a personal story or a case study, or even an interview, even advice or lists about something you know. You can post them on your personal blog, a community platform, or even a pop science magazine if it's something more elaborate. And of course, the GenB website and social media, we're always happy to host your content. However, even when you know what you're writing about, always ensure the sources where you get your data are credible. Some suggestions are popular science websites, like, for example, National Geographic, official reports from the EU, and of course, interviews with industry experts are always great starting points. However, it's also very important to cite those sources properly. You can do that by either just mentioning your source, like in the first example, or by adding a full reference citation, like in the second example. That way, not only you give credit to the original authors, but also you strengthen your credibility and connect your work to a broader body of knowledge. You're standing in the shoulder of giants, as Isaac Newton said. So you don't have to do it this way, but it is better. So I talked about interviewing experts. It's a great way to bring authority and real-world insights into your articles. And by experts, we don't necessarily mean professionals. It might as well be a civilian with personal experience on an environmental issue, or a victim of an environmental catastrophe, for example. Just keep in mind to do your research and have your questions prepared, and be respectful of both their time and their point of view, whether you agree with it or not. So once your research is in place, you've interviewed your experts, you've gone through the internet and fished out everything you want to use, it's time to structure that article. So an article has 4 basic components, regardless of what type of article it is. It might be just a small social media post, it still has structure. So you have the headline, the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Always start with creating a compelling, attention-grabbing title that gives a clear idea of the topic. For example, harnessing the power of bioeconomy, transforming waste into wealth. You have grabbed the attention of the audience, and you have also given a clear idea of what you're going to talk about. So the intro, I did it again. The intro. So the introduction is like a longer version of your headline. You need to you set the scene, try to hook the reader with a powerful fact or question. It's very common. Again, we've heard about it a lot before. So look at the example. Did you know that the bioeconomy can help us reduce waste and create thousands of new jobs? With this question, you've given an idea of what you'll talk about, but you've also asked the audience something that they now feel compelled to at least try and answer. So they will keep on reading because they feel like you're going to help them answer this question. Your main text, as I said, regardless of length, should be organized in a logical section containing all or at least a set of these things: background information, current trends, examples, case studies, challenges, and solutions, all nicely weaved together to tell your story. And finally, the conclusion. A good conclusion recaps the main points of an article and often includes a call to action. Yes, it does apply here. A lot of the things, like Juliet said, are very relevant that you've heard from public speaking. A call to action will encourage the audience to do more with the newfound knowledge that you've just given them. It doesn't have to be something super fancy. A call to action can be as simple as shop locally and support sustainable bioeconomy. You're prompting the audience to do something that will have an impact in their community. But while your information and structure might be impeccable, the way your message is conveyed can be facilitated by several writing techniques, let's say, by fine-tuning. Like, for example, the use of simple language. In Module 5, Marisa is going to talk to you about simplifying bioeconomy topics. And when we do that, we must always be careful not to oversimplify. Also, using a hook, like we said earlier, to keep your writing concise. Here's an example of how you can say the same thing in a simpler way. Bioeconomy is a multifaceted field that encompasses the production of renewable biological resources and their conversion into food, feed, bio-based products, and bioenergy. That's a lot of big words, elaborate words. Or you can just say bioeconomy involves using renewable resources to create food, products, and energy. Basically the same message, but put in a simpler way for the less technical audiences. And some more tips. Try to use active voice whenever it's possible. Like, for example, if you say bioeconomy strategies can help with the reduction of carbon emissions and the promotion of sustainability, it's very, let's say, faceless. However, if you say by adopting bioeconomy strategies, we can reduce carbon emissions and build a sustainable future, you're actually putting the reader and yourself as a writer into action. Like you are the one making this impact and not bioeconomy strategies in general. Also maintain a logical flow by using transition words like however, which I use way too much, I think, and also use visuals that will complement your text. Yes, of course. When writing an article, we always use information and knowledge others have provided, but we must be careful to give credit and respect to the way the original author wishes their data to be used. So basically, let's say copyright is the protection of original works of authorship from being used without permission. As an author, you automatically own everything you create. You can always use works produced by other people under fair use, like in small portions or quotes, but you must always reference the original materials and cite them properly. Always say where you got them from, who said this, and you are repeating it. And now let's talk about the elephant in the room, plagiarism. To put it plainly, that means using someone else's work and trying to pass it off as your own. That is bad for everyone. That is bad for you because you are not producing original content and you're not exercising your right to learn through writing, which we started with. And it's bad for someone who has produced something that you're now trying to take and pass it off as your own and take credit for it. So, crediting is the best way to avoid it. Like, Juliet said something earlier, and I say Juliet said so. So this is crediting even by just saying it, that this was said by this person. Also paraphrasing, you can say the same thing using different words, same context, and summarizing a message. It's also always a good idea to make sure most of your content is original and produced by you. You can do that by using tools like Grammarly or Turnitin, for example, that can tell you the percentage of plagiarism in your work, how much work is original and how much work is taken as it is from something else without citing. And always be careful with AI tools like our favorite ChatGPT. They're just that, they're just tools. Use them, but don't copy paste from them. And last but not least, proofreading and editing. So once everything is ready, you have written down everything you want, the way you want it, you've structured it, it's time to polish your article for publication. Make it clear, concise, and free of errors so people can read it and enjoy it the same way you enjoyed writing it. So here are the basic steps of proofreading. Review your content, check your structure, make sure you use nice flowing sentences and avoid repetition, check your grammar and spelling, and, very important, always read your finished article out loud to detect any remaining mistakes. Things you might not read, you might hear them. And it's always a good idea to have someone else read your article as well. We've already discussed feedback and peer review, so I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to say that they might catch something you missed, and peer review is priceless. This consortium knows it very well. We peer review everything everyone produces, and I think that has a great impact on our work. And finally, employ technology to assist you. Always be careful. Digital tools cannot replace manual proofreading. Use them, but always trust your brains. So, last tips, a small checklist that will help you produce a great end product for publication. Take a break while writing and proofreading. Read your article out loud to check mistakes. Get a second opinion. Use online tools, and always use a checklist. And once everything is checked, your article is ready to be published. So, ta-da! That's it. One last question after this class. Do you feel a little more confident about writing an article on bioeconomy? And it's perfectly okay to say no and ask for more guidance, because we're more than happy to help you. It's great that I see more yeses and no nos, but you can't say no, it's okay. So you can always keep this whole presentation, not just my part, as a sort of quick manual to write articles, because all the modules also have valuable info. And we'll be more than happy to mentor you through writing your article, not just me, but the whole consortium. And speaking of which, for those of you who might be interested, okay, here's an optional assignment. You can choose a topic you like, write an article about it with our guidance and help, of course. And once it's finished, we will publish it on the GenB website and channels. And if you're interested, you can contact me at this email that you see on the screens. Or, of course, you can contact your local GenB person, and they will also assist you, and we can discuss it further. And remember, writing is a form of art. Always have fun with it. That's it for me. I'll give the floor to Loba now. Thank you for your attention, guys.
Thank you, Santi. That was really nice and really interesting and helpful. And I think it's especially helpful because at least we have one of our D ambassadors who's working on an article. So we'll definitely get in touch with you as well. And it's interesting that you end with writing is an form of art. That's what Valentito started with. So I guess we can say communication in general is a form of art. So yay. So now we're going to get to the real art, which is the video making by Pietro. Since we're running a bit tight on time, I'm not going to ask for questions. If you have any, please write them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end.
All right,
Pietro,
so
take it over.
Yep, already have control. We are running out of time, so it was already my plan, but just for your information, my slides are basically overcrowded with information because video making is a complex matter when it comes to communication. Not that the previous ones were not, but there's multiple aspects of this topic. So I will go through them with examples. Since you'll have the slides at later stages through our website, you'll be able to check every single detail of the slides. So, video making, shortly speaking, it is the art of creating content through visual elements in motion. It basically it's divided into scripting, storyboarding, shooting, editing, publishing, and of course then improving, readapting, and trying to go viral by trying. So how does it start? Pen and paper and some clear ideas. Needless to say. So it starts with a script. A script is where you put down in writing. I suggest you to use pen and paper, but it could be any kind of Word doc. Objectives, concepts, target audience, and initial ideas of the flow of your video. So let's give an example. You want to raise awareness on environmental problem that hinders the school of your city. So there's too much traffic, and the buildings are getting ruined because of this. You have the topic and you need an objective. Objective is to meet the mayor of your town. So doing a video that will bring people together and will have more impact, more resonance across your citizens. So you start with collecting info. You look for that for the article. It's the same thing for a video. If you take another video found somewhere on social media as main starting point, as a reference, you will not go very far. Reliable info is what makes the difference. And then what do? From the high level National Geographic, European Commission, United Nations papers, research, videos, and documents, you can bring them to Earth through interviews, for example. So you start with the general problem, traffic, how this can create sound and environmental problems, and you switch to the example of people living in your hood and this specific problem that we are talking about the school. In this way, your audience will be able to liaise, to feel themselves represented. They will not be seen watching your video as if it's this above of the sphere, something that they are getting acquainted with. After that, divide beginning, middle, and the end. At the beginning, introduce the issue. So normally a good thing is to ask a question. Do you know how many cars you need to disrupt an environment? And you put a number from the source, for example. You develop the problem going into detail, and then the end with a call to action, as we were hearing also previously with the speeches and the articles. Tips. When we not go through them, just length. So the length of the script should match the video, the length of the video that you want to do. So if you want to go for a first attempt, 1 minute and a half, 2-minute video, the script cannot be a 10-page concept, logically speaking. Storyboarding. What's storyboarding? Storyboarding means taking the script and translate it into visual slides, visual scenes. So associate for the beginning, for the middle, and for the end, certain numbers of shootings, of slides, of ideas, so that you will see that things will start to connect. The dots will start to get linked. So you have the beginning, you may have slides with graphs and numbers from the sources. Then you have a transition and you go straight to the school, straight to the hood. 4 scenes for that. And then the end, call to action, another slide, another transition. For the visuals that you see here, social media already provide us with a lot of tools and random images, random transitions, motion graphics, etc. So don't get scared. It's really getting easier and easier and easier to do decently high quality videos nowadays. In terms of apps, Canva, the free version, for example, is pretty good. And of course, if you have the chance, Adobe Storyboard, the paid licenses are always the preferred option. In your storyboarding, there must be the key turning point, the key element. It's where in the movies you do the right? So that should happen in the middle. So the turning point. So there's this problem data showcasing your problem, but you have the solution. Solution is interviews with local people living there, wanting to have a meeting because they have some ideas to solve this issue of pollution and traffic and danger for your school and for your hood. So at a certain point, you will need to do the shooting. And nowadays, smartphones already provide very good quality videos. If you want to digitally stabilizers cameras, they are also quite at with good prices. The used one on eBay, you can find plenty of them. What matters is lighting and audio. So whether with a smartphone you can cope with the quality of the image. If you have a light behind you, I don't need to explain, right? That's gonna be quite bad, the backlighting. For the audio, whenever possible, there are the clips, the mic clips that you can attach to the t-shirts. They are brilliant. They work with Bluetooth, very easy to work also through the smartphones themselves, or at least the earphones that you use with your mobiles, right? They have the earphones and the mic embedded with them. Whenever you have a tripod, use the tripod. We don't want a video that goes here and there for the live shootings. Talking about shootings, let me share with you a few tips that video makers also at Loba, the company part of GenB, utilizes. One is the 3x3 grid. What does this mean? It means that imagine that you are shooting at the school. You should divide it into 9 squares, 9 sections, and try to use the line of the horizon or the center in the center of the squares. This will help your viewers to basically focus on what is the focus of the scene. You don't want them to get distracted by something passing by or by the wind moving the trees or the grass on the floor. Another very cool and very simple thing is the frame within the frame. It's one of my favorite ones. So basically, you have the original frame of your mobile, of your camera. If there's a natural or a built-in frame within the shooting, this will over-focus your viewers, and this will create a complete different atmosphere. You see the examples in the bottom right corner. It's pretty easy, straightforward, doesn't require so much attention, and this will also help you to overcome some errors that you may do when it comes to positioning and lighting, etc. This frame within the frame will really help focus and give your video a different touch. There's plenty of good free softwares out there for the editing, and also social media themselves provide us tools for doing whatever we want with our videos. With the free ones, there's iMovie, DaVinci Resolve, and CapCut. Paid ones, Adobe, basically the Adobe suite that I mentioned earlier, will allow you to do anything that you need. Important thing, cutting. Cutting is extremely important. You saw it for the live speech at events. You saw it for the articles. The more you cut, the more the message will pass, the less people will be distracted. Also, when it comes to transitions, having 1, 2, maximum, let's say 3 transitions, so one for beginning, one for the middle, one for the end, will help people raise their attention. If you put too many of them, people will get distracted. So let's imagine you are around in your city and you say, so okay, there's too much traffic, there's no way to overcome this. You do the classic thing that you saw on YouTube, on social media, and you get nearby the municipality where you want to have this meeting. Very easy, very effective. Few of them will highly increase the overall touch and feel and impact of your video. Now we'll go through platforms. So you do a video, you want people to watch your video, presumably. Social media, YouTube and Vimeo in general. At the beginning, as I mentioned, interviews, collaborations with local or important influencers, easier said than done. But also having a launchpad platform like BioVoices is a good thing, or involving an association like in Italy we have Legambiente, for example, environmental youth associations. That's already a collaboration with local influencers. That will still help you have your message resonate and use them as multipliers. Super briefly here, if you are doing this in collaboration with these associations, the major, the teachers of the school that you want to raise awareness about, Vimeo is a very good platform because it will allow you to leave comments on the video per se, on the URL, without the need for having an account with the timestamps of the comments automatically made. So I super suggest you, if you are collaborating online remotely with people for a video, to use Vimeo. For YouTube and social media, what matters is optimizing them. What does this mean? It means that search engines, they almost more or less work the same, meaning that they go for the keywords associated to a topic and the second most likely keyword associated to that. So if your problem is environmental problem, traffic, this should appear in your title. But then in the descriptions, we go for the metadata, which is also other more and more keywords associated to that description. Also the file per se that you upload, for example, the name of the file per se, as it happens for websites, the name of the images that you upload on your blog, for example, that also helps the SEO, search engine optimization. The thumbnails, the tags, let's say rule of thumb, not use more than 10, but you will see also very highly professional YouTubers having 5 to 10 hashtags associated to their videos. Thumbnails, the thumbnails are the images that you see normally for the videos when you search for them in any kind of video platform. It's good for 2 reasons. One is, of course, to attract the attention of the audience, but secondly, you can complement information of your video with that. So if the title is traffic jam is killing the city of Rome, In the title per se, you might add the information. Let's see the practical example of school XYZ. Okay, so it's a tool to provide more info with no effort, basically. No more blah, blah, blah in the title. Of course, for social media, encourage people to comment, like, share, etc., and be very, very active in thanking each one of them. Lastly, so improving and analyzing is, yes, keywords that you always see written for anything. But let me give you the example of Mr. Beast. Don't know if you know the example. It's a super famous YouTuber that I want to mention just because he has been mastering the art of doing 3 tests of videos. He analyzes what worked best, and he super masters and refines and repeats the best format of the video. And then he tries new things. This means that going for some shootings at the beginning, doing some tests, something doesn't work, it's normal. What matters is then to compare what you've been done earlier and try to understand why this worked over this, and stress on what has been working in terms of contents, in terms of formats, in terms of collaborations. Now let's see if this works. Yes, it works. So I want to give you a fast example. It's 2 minutes, I can interrupt it in 1 minute, of a video that has had basically no budget needed. So with stock music, royalty free, with a speech of someone that we all know, and with random stock videos. So what happened here? It's that the guy that published this video followed very few of the things I said. He focused on what? He focused on emotions, giving the message, and resonating with the audience. So things that you've been hearing across the different modules today, the target audience and the message. Let me just give you a 1 minute run.
A group of climate change organisations have
emissions of greenhouse gases.
Climate change is now happening.
Indonesia says it's
10 million tons of...
The Philippines tops a list of countries most susceptible to hazards caused by climate change.
Ito ang dahilan ng pagkakaroon ng mga bagyong gaya ng Super Typhoon Yolanda at Bagyong Umboy.
This is all wrong. You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams, my childhood with your empty words. And yet, I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
You see, I think we all recognize Greta Thunberg speech. Emotional music behind this, images that of course make sense, but these are stock videos that you can find royalty free in plenty of websites out there. So what's the point in this? It's the point that you don't necessarily need to go through professional agencies and super complicated concepts at the beginning. You see this guy has like, I don't know, 1,000 subs, a random person that did this video and reached the 200,000 views. Why? Because this works, because it's a straight message, a speech that was working with good images. He started, for example, at the beginning with the sources, right? The news that we saw on television, and immediately created this emotional connection. So as you heard in the previous modules, go for these examples and understand what worked here and replicate it. Imagine doing the same at local level. This had basically a budget of €0. Imagine how effective this could be for a local municipality if you also collaborate, for example, with an association or ideally the people from the municipality. That's it. Thank you.
Pietro, thank you so much. I'm sorry that you had to rush. And just a warning, we have one more module, which I think is really important. So we're probably going to run over the time by about 10 minutes so that you're warned. I hope you'll be able to stay. If you're not, we're going to record it and send you the link to the presentations. Also, there's a lot of information from Pietro's presentation and also from Santi's that they didn't go into detail, but they're also really important. So we're going to give you access to the presentation. So if you're really interested in one or the other topic, you can go into more detail. And I'm sure Pietro and everyone else will be happy for any questions. So now, Marisa, will you close the session? Oh, sorry. Marisa is going, so she's the more expert on bioeconomy in the whole project. So she knows like the technical things, but even if she knows it from a technical level, she's going to tell us how we together can communicate it better to different audiences, separated according to age. So young people and adults. Marisa, please take it away.
Yes, thank you, Juliet. So I will tell you something about simplifying bioeconomy topics. So first, I will go into some key consideration. I think I can go through this quite fast, as there is quite a bit of overlap with the previous presentations. Then some helpful tools, and then I will give you some practical examples of some topics which you can simplify. So I will first give you a quick recap on what these things actually are and how you can simplify these topics to adults and to children. So I will go through biomass and bio-based products, the circular bioeconomy, and what is a biorefinery. So what are some key considerations? So I think you've heard this enough today. The audience is important to consider. So what is relevant to your audience? What are the key concepts which they might find interesting? And what visual aids or visual elements can you use to explain this to your audience? And then finally, what is their level of knowledge, which is very important when you want to simplify some things to them. So for the level of knowledge, if we're talking to children, you can assume that they only have a basic, they have no background knowledge, of course, but they also only have a basic understanding of the world. Well, if you're talking to the general public, so maybe to some adults, to some of your friends, they do have an understanding of the world, but they might not have any background knowledge on sustainability or the bioeconomy. And if you're talking to professionals, you can assume that they have quite a bit more knowledge, and you can cover some different topics. And then core concepts and communication, which has already been extensively covered today already. So define the key terms clearly. You can focus on the core concepts and use simple words and provide clear definitions and examples. So some helpful tools to help you simplify the bioeconomy to people are visual aids. So it's nice to bring some biomass or bio-based products so you can explain it using these products. So for example, I've been to some festivals and I brought my water bottle, which is made from a bio-based plastic. And when I show the water bottle to people, they at first think it's just a normal bottle. And then using this bottle, I can explain what the bioeconomy is. It's nice to give some practical examples that people can relate to. So the image here is a car, so you can talk to people about their cars. So what kind of fuel do they use? Do they know that there are biofuels, etc.? And it's good to keep it simple. Don't go into too much detail sometimes, and don't make it too complicated. So for your knowledge, what does bio-based mean? So I took some slides from the first webinar, so the people that are here again today might recognize these. So biomass is the material from biological renewable sources, such as wood, plants, algae, vegetables, and food waste. So using this biomass, we can produce products. So they are completely or partially based on biomass. But a bio-based product doesn't have to be the finished product. So the images you see at the bottom, they show you a value chain of how jeans are made. So every step of the value chain, so this can be the material, which is cotton, the intermediate product, which is yarn, semi-finished product, which is a fabric here, and the end product you can find in the store. They're all bio-based products. These jeans also don't have to be 100% cotton to be considered bio-based. So these jeans, for example, they have 2% elastane, which is not bio-based, but they are still considered to be bio-based. So, and then finally, bioeconomy. This covers all the sectors, related services and investments that produce, use, process, distribute, and consume biological resources. So what is biomass? So biomass is the basis of the bioeconomy. So it covers renewable material from various sources. So from primary production, such as agriculture, forestry, and fishery, but also residues, such as food waste from your house, or residues from industry, so big factories. And it's also important to know how much biomass is available, how much we can take. So the image I put here is of the Lorax. So in the book, they're taking trees out of the forest, and after a while the forest cannot regenerate anymore because there are not enough trees. So it's good to know how much biomass we can take, so we don't take too much and nature cannot recover. So some examples of types of biomass. So typically when we're talking about biomass, we're speaking of wood, different crops, so things that can grow on a farm, such as sunflower for sunflower oil, and also soy, sugar crops such as sugar beets and sugarcane, starch crops like corn and potatoes, agricultural residues like straw, and also industrial, municipal, and household waste, such as food waste. But there are also other types of biomass which are not talked about as often, and they can be used in some nice innovative products. So biomass is also seaweed and algae, coffee grounds, milk protein, the roots of mushrooms, elephant poo, and insects. So now that you know what biomass and bio-based is, how would you explain this to some kids that were wondering what it is? So you as a GenB ambassador can say biomass is different things from nature. We can use the trees, plants, crops, and animals, and even food waste to make new things like toys, houses, and clothes. So next to this simplified explanation, it's nice to make it fun. So how I did this, for example, I went to a science festival, and here we made a game in which the kids could feel into these tubes, and they had to guess what type of biomass they were feeling, and they had to link it to a bio-based product that was made from this biomass. So this way they could feel and they could touch and smell the biomass and also get an idea of some bio-based products. So it's good to make it fun and to show some materials and products. However, if you cannot bring these bio-based products and biomass to the kids, it's nice to show them using images and videos. So Now, let's say we're talking to some adults. You could explain it in a different way. You could say that biomass is made material from biological origin, such as plant, wood, and agricultural waste that can be used to make bioenergy and bio-based products and materials like biofuels and bioplastics. And you could explain it in the same way. You could bring some products so they can feel and smell, or you could use some visual aids such as videos and images. And as I said before, it's nice to give some practical examples that they can relate to. So for example, a practical example could be PLA, polylactic acid, which is a bio-based plastic made from sugar crops and starch crops, so corn, potatoes, sugar beets, and sugarcane. And from these crops, we can make a plastic, which can be used in new and innovative products, such as these bags you can see on the screen. So for these bags, the leaves from pineapples, which are usually thrown away, they are combined with this bio-based plastic in order to make a leather-like material, which can be used for handbags and shoes. But bio-based doesn't necessarily have to be very innovative, as you might already have it at home, as these triangle tea bags, which you might have at home as well. They're also usually made out of PLA. So another example you could give to these adults is, for example, of body scrub. As you can see that there are some granules usually in body scrub, which are usually made out of plastic. But when people use this under the shower, all these microplastics, they usually end up in the water. So this is a nice way to explain how they could do better. So for example, they could make their own scrub using coffee grounds, or they could make a sugar scrub using sugar and coconut oil. So the next topic which you can simplify is the linear and circular economy. So what is the linear economy? This is the simple take, make, and waste economy. As every year we're taking almost 100 billion virgin raw materials, of which 70% are finite, such as fossil fuels and minerals. And most of these products are ending up in the landfill, so they end up as waste, or they're being incinerated, so they're burned. And only 9% of these products, they end up being recycled. And some products, they end up in long-lasting materials such as buildings. So what are the problems of the linear economy? So we have the issue of the depletion of natural resources, but also the mining and the waste, the landfills. They also cause several problems, such as environmental pollution, climate change, damage to ecosystems and biodiversity, and economic disadvantages. So we need to go circular in order to not have these problems. So the circular bioeconomy. In the circular bioeconomy, we have raw materials, which includes biomass and residue streams that are used to produce products and services of the highest possible value. These material streams are used to produce different products, such as bioenergy and fuels, bio-based products, food and feed, compost, which is used in agriculture, and we can capture and use CO2. So for example, if we take wood, this wood can be used in furniture, which is something of a higher value. But when this furniture is done, it cannot be used anymore. It can still be used for other purposes, such as a particle board, or if the quality is even less, we can use it for energy purposes. Yeah, so that's what the circular bioeconomy is all about. So how would you explain this to some kids? So the circular bioeconomy means that we use plants to make new things. And when we're done with them, instead of throwing them away, we make new things out of them. We give them new uses, or they get back to the earth to help the plants grow. So an example you could give to kids is food. So food is usually grown on a farm. It then becomes the food which you can eat. And when you're done with it, you usually have some leftovers from the food, which usually ends up in the trash. However, you can also take these food waste and make compost out of it. The compost can go back to the land and help the plants grow, so you have even more food. So instead of linear, we go circular, and in the end, we will have less waste, which is good. You can explain the same thing to adults. I will skip over the explanation, but an example you could give to adults, which is a bit more complicated, is of paper. So we take trees to make paper out of it. It goes into a pulp mill. We produce a paper, a book, a newspaper, anything. And when you're done with it, it can end up in the trash. However, we can also take this old paper and recycle it into new pulp. This pulp goes back into the factory and it can be used to produce new paper up to 7 times. So because we reuse this paper, we can reuse it up to 7 times, so we need less trees, so we need less virgin pulp for the paper, and we also have less waste in the end. So instead of the linear economy, we have a circular bioeconomy in this case. So my last example here is a biorefinery. This might seem a bit difficult, but a biorefinery is, you can see it as a factory, a facility in which a type of biomass or multiple types of biomass, it's being converted into multiple different bio-based products. So we take the biomass and we take out some intermediate products such as sugars, the starch, cellulose, etc. And we use conversion technologies in order to turn it into products. So the outputs, you can see a pyramid here, which means that it's the pyramid of higher value. So if we have, you can see pharma is at the top of the pyramid. So usually these products, they have a lower volume, but they have an increased value. So a biorefinery might sound a bit complicated, but if I tell you that, for example, a beer brewery is also a biorefinery, because the main output of this brewery might be beer, but we use a lot of grains and yeast in this process, which after we make beer out of it, we have quite some left over. So this spent grains, which we have left over at the end of the process, it's quite a large volume, but it doesn't have such a high value. So we can use it for animal feed or for heating electricity. But we also have some yeast left over, which is maybe not the highest volume, but it is of very high value. And we can use it, for example, in pharmaceuticals, because it can be used as some sort of a layer of different pills. So how do we explain this more difficult concept to kids? So you can say that a biorefinery is a place or a factory where plants and other natural materials are turned into products, materials, and energy. And you can simply explain it like that. So we have plants, wood, crops, and food waste. They can go into a factory, and out comes a product, material, or electricity. Then for the adults, you can give a bit more complicated definition. And it's nice to give an example as well. So I talked about the pulp and paper mill earlier, but the pulp and paper mill can also, it's also a biorefinery, because the paper is not the only output of the pulp and paper mill, but there's also lignin that comes free in the pulping process, and this lignin can be used to create different type of chemicals. And there's also black liquor, which comes free during the pulping process. And this black liquor is used to generate a lot of electricity. So most pulp and paper mills, they're running on mostly black liquor electricity. So even this is seen as a biorefinery. And I think that was it from my side. I hope that was all clear and I didn't go too fast.
Oh, you're very clear. Oh, well, at least for me. Thank you so much, Marisa. And I'm sorry you had to rush. It's always
No problem.
It's always a problem when you're at the end. So I don't know if there's a burning question because this is related to bioeconomy and communication to Marisa. I'll take that as a no, but I'm sure Marisa is very happy to get back to you if you have any special questions afterwards. So I'm just going to wrap up. Please bear with me for another 5 minutes. And I'm so sorry that we've taken too long, but it's the last webinar, so you know, it's a bit special. So I think what we've seen throughout the presentations, whether it's writing, whether it's video production, whether it's public speaking, whether it's how to communicate bioeconomy concepts in an easy way, we've had audience like 200 times today. I think we should have gotten $1 for each or €1. But what's also important is to structure your message. Keep it simple. We've said practice, make sure you get feedback, use different visuals, end with an action, call to action, and engage, connect, and listen. So I'm just saying this, but it's been spoken to in very many details before. But I think it's nice to see that the different types of communication that we had at the beginning actually are very similar. It's just a different way of producing them at the end. And that's it for this webinar. I have 2 more things I would like to share with you. So I don't know if some of you joined us for the debates. So our colleague George is organizing youth debates on different topics, and that will take place in December, not in December, in October, in 3 weeks in October. And it will be bioeconomy education, training and skills for future generation, communicating the vision of sustainable future with bioeconomy, and the youth becoming the next leaders for a fair, inclusive, sustainable society. So this is going to take place online. I'm not quite sure how it's going to run, but we'll share with you the details as soon as we have them. I hope you'll come and share your ideas, because this is where actually you get a chance to speak. So with the webinars, you've been listening a lot and not speaking so much. So here you have a chance to kind of share your voice with us. Also in November, we will organize a mutual learning workshop, which will be also where you get to speak. So we will kind of talk to you, see your experiences. What have you done as a GenB ambassadors? What's been difficult? What's been really cool? What have you learned? To kind of make sure we learn from each other. I think it's nice. And before I get into lots of trouble, and I mean, I would get into loads of trouble. So if you if you want me to have my job tomorrow, okay, this is exaggerating. But what's important for us, we really want to learn what we're doing good, what we're not doing so well. And it's important not just for us as a project, but also to the European Commission, that we get feedback on such activities. So if you could scan this code, I hope you're able to see it properly. There's a short feedback form, which I hope will take less than 10 minutes, that you can complete online. And your data is totally anonymous. So you can say whatever is on your mind. There are no right or wrong answers as usual. It's just your opinion, and it's important for us to grow. That's what we're talking about, feedback. So we want your feedback now so that we can grow as well. Yeah, I think Katarina has posted the link to the chat in case you're not able to join in with the barcode. So please complete it. I will let you go, and you can continue completing it without us being online. I really would like to thank you for being so patient with us the 3 times we've had this webinar. I hope you're able to learn something, take something away from each of the webinars. I personally learned a lot, although I didn't expect to learn anything, so thank you. And also a massive thank you to every single partner in the GenB project. You guys are so awesome. You created really interesting, really high quality content, and you delivered it amazingly, and you are so engaged, as in seriously, thank you. And yeah, have a really wonderful evening. We will see you in November. Katarina and I are organizing the mutual learning workshop, so, and probably most of the other GenB partners are going to be present. So yeah, see you in October with George, and see you in November with us. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful time, and communicate about the bioeconomy and share with us whatever you need.